Alright, we got about 1 minute to showtime, and everything seems to be functioning alright. Got number one fan.
All right.
And in the chat room, Cyanide from European Union.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is a very real prospect of a new world order. The new world order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
How can I convince you when your ears refuse to hear? You turn your heart away from me each time that I draw near. Your eyes refuse to meet with mine, they glance away in fear.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
Well, it doesn't show how nice the same as the same. Knowing that you're right, blinded by the light.
He is the free American Clay Douglas.
Blinded by the light.
Catch the Free American weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger wells inside me till I'm almost overcome. I want to tear the moon out of the sky and drop the sun. Why do I look so old? I got me a
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. I'm your host. I am Clay Douglas. Just an old biker from Texas trying to find out who runs things, who are we answering to, who are we paying. And my guests today are Swenssen and Jim Porter. He'll be stepping in there with us and throwing in his 2 cents. And they're going to try to tell you who it's, and it ain't who you think it is. It ain't who you elected. So we are being ruled by corporations. Let's see, I think they called that fascism in World War II. But Carl has approached some of your so-called elected officials, and we'll get his report. But I had this I wanted to share with you. I don't know what it means. I don't know. I can't confirm it myself personally, but you ought to be able to. You ought to be able to tell me if this is correct or not. It's came into me on my email today, and it's interesting. I was just working on an article, and I mentioned Casper, the friendly ghost, and his evil brothers. And it was just kind of an aside. I was just sketching on an article I was going to do, and then this came in today. This week, I am filing a world exclusive. Remember, you heard it here first. So says the gentleman who wrote this, whoever that might be. It was posted by the national director of the the Tea Party. The writer said, "For years I have maintained a team of investigators trailing our president, seductively trailing our president, whatever that is, SEDULOUSLY. They have studied pictures of him. They have inquired of photographers and camera crews who employ both still and video cameras to cover the president. My investigators have interviewed White House journalists, occasionally White House employees, and of course, White House visitors, even tourists. All have been asked the same question. Have you ever seen the president's shadow?" Every interviewee who would answer the question has confirmed my suspicion they have not seen President Barack Obama's shadow. The reason for this curious phenomena is that he casts no shadow. Despite all the power at his command, he robes the world, leaving no shadow. The sun may shine down upon him, a wall of floodlights may illuminate him, yet beyond his neat and well-tailored physique, he leaves no shadow, no silhouette, nothing, zilch, as they say. He is that insubstantial. He's a community organizing. He's not a president. Gertrude Stein is famous for saying, "There's no there." Well, with President Obama, things get worse. There is no shadow there. Our 44th president will go down in history as the first American president who left the White House leaving nothing but a vast disproportionate sigh of relief across the nation. Even some of his supporters will be relieved when he's gone. Oh, there'll be wreckage. Our healthcare system, such once the ideal of the world, is in ruins. Fragments of legislation clutter the landscape, such as Dodd-Frank. The national debt was dangerously high when he entered office. Now has more than doubled, if not tripled. Yet nothing substantial or constructive has been achieved. A year after President Obama vacates the White House, almost any Republican president working with a Republican Congress will have cleaned up the mess, except for the debt. That will take longer. In foreign policy, things may be even worse. A nuclear Iran will have to be dealt with when the president, without a shadow, leaves the office after withdrawing American power from every corner of the world. Well, Americans will see how dangerous a community activist can be in the White House. When the president will leave wreckage, but he's not going to leave a shadow. He has not got one. All right. Again, I don't know. I can't confirm. I don't even like looking at the man, so I don't know what he's got. I don't know if he's got a shadow or not. You might be able to find out and tell me if this guy is wrong here. I don't know. Carl Swenssen, how are you, sir?
I'm just so hunky-doggone-dory, I can't stand it.
I'm glad to hear that. And you have a shadow. Thanks for turning the camera on. I feel better now.
Yeah. Well, this is another day, and it's another experience in the realm of government, whatever you choose to think it is. We're going to be dealing with it. until this thing is turned around. You know, people, Clay, are finally waking up, and it's kind of scary for them, but reality has a way of slapping you right between the eyes, and that's what's pretty much happening now. These numbers that keep bantying about, they're not reflective of us. They're reflective of the corporation. The corporation is the United States in all capitals Incorporated, or the other one, the United States Incorporated. Excuse me, the United States of America Incorporated. People just don't really seem to be able to wrap their heads around the fact that this thing is and has been a corporate entity since officially since 33 and unofficially since the Civil War. So now that we're starting to get a grip on what the history is, people ask, well, what the hell are we going to do about it? And the question is really answered by saying, we got to arrest them. We just got to arrest them. So as people across the country have uncovered crime after crime committed by public officials, they put those crimes for law enforcement, and they go unpunished, Clayton. They go unprosecuted, unarrested, and the people that have been either done wrong or have uncovered these things walk away scratching their head thinking, what kind of justice system do we have? Because it seems like it's tailored only for weak people, and it doesn't apply to that other class of people called politicians, and especially the judiciary. Wow, what a mess that has become. So that's where we're at, and we're going to continue now to grow the forces necessary to start effecting the arrest of these criminals. It's hard. It's hard to do that because people, by and large, don't want to come to grips with it, A, or stand up, B. And as you know from your dealings in the past, when you start trying to put people together for any worthwhile purpose, it's much akin to herding cats.
They don't want to work together. And let me say hello to our friend Jim Porter. Jim's with us now. Hello, Jim.
Good morning, Clayton.
Good morning, sir. If you got something to add here, feel free to chip in while we're talking here. Carl, one of the things that really bothers me, and I've been asking this question for 20 years, why aren't we arresting these people? Why didn't we arrest the people that killed the little children and their families at Waco? And more recently, jump forward, George Bush gave $2 trillion to the banksters that printed the money and loaned it to us to give back to them. Somebody should have gone to jail over that, I would think, but nobody did.
No, and nobody will, Clayton, because you see, there is a protection mechanism built into this criminal syndicate. That protection mechanism is the ABA. You know, where once there was the perception of a separation of powers, now there is no more separation or even the illusion of separation. We have but one power in this nation, and that power is the Bar Association. They control us, they herd us into prisons, and they work both sides of the aisle to police us of every bit of property that they can get their hands on.
And that is a foreign corporation with that has given themselves a little bit more power than is rightful. The Bar Association stands, for you folks that don't know, stands for the British Accredited Registry. Why is a foreign country monitoring our judicial system? And every attorney out there owes his allegiance to the courts, not to you. He will not represent you. He represents the courts. And he goes on to be a judge. Then he rules on the courts. And from there, he goes on, if he's personable enough and shaved properly, he goes on to be a politician. Have I got that right?
Unbelievable. Yeah, you got that right. They're at every level of government. I mean, you find them in your local politics, from cities and counties to the states, all the way up to that golden bastion of power, the United States of America, Washington, D.C., which in and of itself is a foreign country with its own constitution.
Yeah.
And look, guys, we have never come out from under the Revolutionary War. Everything that you thought was real was not. The systems that were in place that you thought were there to protect you are not. Anything that you claim that you get your rights from, you don't. Now, history has finally revealed its ugly self. So people are walking around again, scratching their heads, thinking, "Okay, what do we do now?" And it's a little bit past the time where we've discussed what all the problems are. Now it's time for the organization. And the organization is what we're talking about here. The organization to put people together and re-empower them to start stepping up and effecting those arrests. We have one such that has organized. It is called Americans Standing United. The website just went up, and it's going to be continually updated. And it's AmericansStandingUnited.com. This is a group of people that are willing to stand in the breach. We've been hemorrhaging justice for the longest time, and people like Jim know this full well. I'm one of the rare few that is in this endeavor that hasn't been truly affected in a substantial sense. Yeah, sure, I've been arrested, but I really haven't been affected in the way that many other people have. Some have lost their children, some have lost their property, some have lost family, you name it. Every manner of trespass, every manner of harm has been done to them. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. So I would suggest that those that know what the deal is, that they start looking over their shoulders, because we're coming. We are coming. And they know we're coming, Clayton, because now what I'm seeing is plant after plant, disruptor after disruptor are being foisted upon these groups in order to try and slow them down.
They did that in every group that I was in Austin. On Saturday nights we had meetings. You know, in Tucson we had meetings, and they sent these trolls in. I don't know what else you would call them. Clay, you can't talk about that. No, Clay, that's not right. They did anything they could to disrupt the thing, and keep prevent me from getting any kind of support. I've watched them tear down group after group after group. And the other thing, folks, that you need to know, they stole our #1 cash crop almost 50 years ago. Hemp has been grown since the Revolutionary War. Hemp provided all the rope and sails, clothing, and everything for Americans. And in the 30s, they called it, Popular Mechanics called it the $1 billion crop. And how many people do we have in prisons today across this country for having a little piece of hemp in their pocket? This is part of the war against the American people. And the lawyers are behind that. The lawyers make money. Hey, you know, we can get you a deal. We can cut you a deal. We can handle this for you. It's something a lot of people don't want to talk about. You know, well, that's illegal. Marijuana's illegal. Well, it wasn't 30 years ago. And there's a hell of a lot more than marijuana in a hemp plant. We conquer the world with hemp.
Clayton, you know, people don't understand what the real reason for the demonization of that plant is. You know, they really fail to understand that it was the commercial value of that plant wasn't in getting high.
No.
It was actually in getting well. And the things that plant can do in the form of hemp seed oil are incredible. And it's because of this and because of the homeopathic approach to medicine that has the medical community really scared. Because if we're walking around here and we're healthy, what do we need them for? You know, well, what's the point? We've got all of the tools necessary to live a very long and prosperous life. If some choose to smoke that thing, well, so be it. That's their call. That is a victimless crime, and all victimless crimes deserve to be left the hell alone.
You know,
if you want
50 years ago, about 50 years ago, maybe 45, I wrote a novel about the United States in a future when victimless crimes had been abolished. No victimless crimes. If you don't have a crime, we don't have. If there ain't a victim, you don't have a crime. And they've kind of been hassling me ever since.
No harm, no foul. That's what we started this country with. No harm, no foul. And nature's law, God's law, you know, that was the rule of the day, and it was for the longest time. But you see, you know, you can't really control people that way. That leaves all the control in the hands of our Creator, and that's not really conducive to what the Crown and the Vatican had in mind for us. So, as they have conspired over the years, the control mechanism was put in place. That control mechanism came in the form of the agents. The agents were licensed back prior to, officially licensed back prior to the Civil War, but they've unofficially been here as pirates since our inception. And that money that they take in, a portion of that money has always been designed to go back to the Crown. When they were effective in getting the income tax established here, well, boy, they just absolutely made the day for the Crown, and then they could do whatever the heck they wanted. That little piece of land over there that we fought against and won, supposedly, the war against, still to this day is the controlling force behind this country. 1 square mile in Great Britain, and then that 1,000 square yards in the Vatican. Those two countries, coupled with that 10 square miles we call Washington, D.C., are the 3 major ruling powers in the world. Now, we've done it before. We've stood up before, and there's no reason to think we can't stand up again.
You know, I remember 20 years ago, people were talking about communist China, how they were using slave labor, how they were the bad guys. And, of course, we had a Cold War against Russia, and frankly, I don't believe the Russian people were ever our enemies. They were our allies more than they were enemies. But the banksters got to them. Suddenly, they were the bad guys. So we fought a Cold War. It was nothing but publicity. It was nothing but propaganda. We got a Cold War. We got a arm up. We got to get ready. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. Yeah, where? Where? I looked under that bush. I didn't see a Russian. So, but somebody made a lot of money for building atomic weapons and selling it back to us and to Russia. And now we also pointed the finger at China and said, look, they use slave labor, to make those Tootsie Pops, man. They use slave labor. Well, what are we doing? What are we doing right now?
Let's tell everybody who they is.
What's that? Go ahead.
Let's tell everybody who they is, because the words ring hollow whenever we use the vagaries and the generalities. They, as it pertains to America, those powers that be, are in fact the CIA, the Vatican, the Crown, the Mafia, and the various alphabet agencies out there. Now, it has been said that there are those within those agencies that are the good guys, the white hats. Well, you know something, folks? I'm not seeing any white hats. Have you, Clayton?
No, not anymore. They killed all of the good guys. People like Ted Gunderson out there were trying to work for us. He had a few hundred FBI agents under his command, and I think he was one of the good guys. He's been demonized a lot after he died, but
Well, you got to understand that the good guys still adhere to all of the statutes and codes, which are no laws at all. Those are all part of the fiction. The fiction is the court system. They do not, have not, and will not deal in the real flesh and blood man. They can only deal in the fictional man, the person, the corporation. Anytime a man, a flesh and blood man, goes to these courts, announces that he is such, he now places a target upon his back. And unless he is one sharp cookie, he is going to jail, because that is the whole purpose, to separate you, to take what is your right. And we do have rights, but those rights do not come from government. Our rights come from God. He's our creator. He placed us here, and we in turn created this thing called government. So when we look at the power structure of how this all came to be, other than God above us, everything else concerning government is below us. That's why they were supposedly called public servants. Now they are public masters. Wake up, my friends. The masters are about ready to unleash living hell upon you. They already have started by virtue of the waves of innocence, illegals, but innocents nonetheless, from all over the world. They keep bringing them here to water down this population, to make sure that we are fighting somebody other than who we need to be fighting, because, Clayton, it's all about the Hegelian dialect. It's all about the pitting of one man against another, while those who do the pitting sit back in their ivory towers and watch the games. It's no different than football, basketball, baseball, or boxing. They put one against the other, the people choose their sides, and there you go. The games have begun. They're the same way in the courts. The games in the courts are all fictional. They're not real. And yet, they put real men and women in harm's way. It's all on there for people to see via video cameras in the courts. Although you personally are not allowed to bring them in there because the masters of the courtroom, these judges, will not allow that. No, 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 no. That cannot be done. Unless, of course, you're part of the mainstream media. Then, of course, they will allow you to film them because, you know something? Along with the criminals in the judiciary, there are the criminals in the media. Now, I know, Clayton, that you're not part of that, and there's precious few out there, but there's a lot of people that are not part of that, what you used to call mainstream media. Right now, that is controlled by the CIA and the same characters that I previously stated. It's all part of the game. So I tell you what, whenever we finally do get started and start marching and start taking these people down that have been doing all this to us, a certain percentage of those people are going to have to kind of like branch off and march right on down towards the local television and news stations, because it's about time that the people who have controlled that aspect, and they have for over 100 years, that they kind of lose that control now and it returns back to the people. Can you imagine actually having a free press? Can you imagine having people interested in reporting news as opposed to putting conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory and lie after lie in front of your face and having you believe it? Nah. Well, we need a break.
I can imagine it, because when I saw what happened to the children at Waco, I started a newspaper. I started a magazine, and I told the truth. I told the truth, and suddenly I was demonized and attacked. I couldn't even figure it out at first. I'm just an old biker from Texas. What the hell are they doing? Why are they doing that to me? Why are they talking to me about me that way? I really didn't understand it first.
It's a four-letter word. It's a four-letter word. You know, you may think it isn't, but to the powers that be, it is. And it has no place in the scheme of things. And if you don't believe me, ask Jim. He's had to deal with it. You know, imagine, if you will, and this is all the Twilight Zone, Clayton. It really is. You know, you go into court knowing full well that you have all the truth on your side, and all you have to do is put it forward, and the proper ruling will come down on your side, right? Boy, have we been naive. Yeah, I don't care how right you are, how many facts you have. When you are put in that situation and you have to bring forth your case, all of a sudden you find that you're not in a position to bring forth the truth, because you're locked up in a system, a fictional system, designed for one thing and one thing only: to separate you from your property. And Jim has had it happen to him. I went to Nebraska, and I saw a couple up there, an elderly couple, that 75 years old, that lost a 10,000-acre ranch to the attorneys. They literally stole it out from under their feet. Over 1,000 head of cattle. Everything that they had built, their house, their farm equipment, everything. It was the most incredible theft I have ever seen. And to this day, they're still fighting to get it back. But who are they fighting? They're fighting the attorneys. And the attorneys are, let's see, the judge, the prosecutor, the DA, and the defense counsel, all of which have pledged their allegiance to whom? Oh yeah, that would be the courts. What a deal. Ed and Kathleen Jesse are their name, and I will never, ever forget them. Sweetest couple you've ever seen in your life. And to have this happen in the fashion that it did just really opened my eyes to a bigger evil that's out there. They're out there gobbling up the property of this country in not just quarter-acre plots, half-acre plots. Now they're going 10,000-acre plots at a time. Wow. They've really gotten serious about this, and they're really getting good at this because they still got it in their possession. the Jessies don't. What do you say to that? What do you say? Jim has his story. They literally stole it from Jim. And it's going on every day of the week. The courts are there for people to use, to steal, to rape, to pillage, to plunder. They are the vessels that contain the pirates that have been robbing this country blind ever since they were given the power to do so. Jim, tell us a little bit about how they took your wealth away.
Good morning, guys. I want to back the conversation up just a little bit, and then I'll tell you that story. Okay. One of the things that I've found is the people, they're trying to apply what they've heard. They're not actually applying what is available to read. This call started about the bar. Sadly, anybody can go online and investigate any state bar and actually find out the truth and the game plan of what the bar's up to, how they're going to do it, and why. The people just, they either don't know it's there, too lazy to look for it, if it is, knowing it's there. But what's really happening is the courts are more of a protection mechanism for the people, the government employees that are actually doing the stealing of the property. And they don't mess, they'll take a quarter-acre lot if it's just laying there and nobody's paying attention. But what they're doing is they're aggressively taking the stuff that has the higher wealth, the higher values. And that's what happened to me. Not to cry about it, but I've got the documents exposing the people who signed them and their actions. I've got emails. There were discussions at 2 o'clock in the morning on weekends between these different government employees on setting up this plot and what they were going to do. I've isolated the lobbyist who actually drafted the contract on how they were going to split all this mess up and who got what. Completely documented this thing. Now, and I was guilty of what a lot of people are guilty of today. I thought I had access to the civil or the criminal courts. I thought I could name these individuals or the corporation. In my case, I was actually going to name the city corporation that these men worked for, who did the signing and taking of my property. Through the discovery process, the evidence was so overwhelming and they didn't have anything to rebut it with, the state court system refused to allow me to have a court date. They just said, no, you can't come to court. Talked to back in the day here about 5 years ago or 6, the sitting Chief Justice of the Colorado Supreme Court who took me up on it, put me on a homework assignment, get a criminal conviction, go to the criminal side of the court system. And I've been messing with that for 5 years. In Colorado, we have no state police. You can't go to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation as an individual, walk in the door, and make a criminal complaint. The way our statutes are set up, you go to your local law enforcement, whether it's your a detective or the city police chief. You can go to a sheriff's deputy or the sheriff himself, which I talked to the sheriff. These people hear the evidence, hear the complaint, maybe read the evidence in my case, and they actually requested the CBI look into this for criminal prosecution. Now I'm thinking I'm pulling on the end of the rope and everything's coming my way. That eventually, if I live long enough, I'm going to get a criminal conviction. In fact, what happened is the district attorney refused to prosecute the government employee criminals. And that's what the people of this country need to understand. That is how the people are being controlled by a relatively few as far as a percentage number of the people, residents in this country. Now, there's an argument whether attorneys are bar members and they've lost their citizenship. We can set all of that aside. What's happening is the district attorneys are acting like God. And you can even read this on the websites. If you go to, I've only investigated possibly 20. If you go to any states, or one of the 20 states attorney general websites that I've been to, it will flat tell you that they are charged with defending government employees against criminal prosecution. Flat tell you that. Read the words. What I've found is the best defense to a criminal prosecution is no offense to begin with. And that's what these district attorneys are doing. They're using what they call prosecutorial discretion. If I get pulled over for a speeding ticket, they'll damn sure prosecute me. But if I catch a government employee stealing something of a value of 9 digits, multiples of 9 digits, they refuse to prosecute. This is, the people think they know what's going on. They actually are applying rule of what they've heard should go on, but they're not actually reading the rules to find out what's going to happen to them when they try to enter the court system. And that's part of what your previous conversation was about. There is no justice. Now, we have 1.2 million attorneys in this country, approximately. They pick from this attorney pool when they need a replacement for a politician, for a political office. They're going to look at their pool, their internal bar membership. Yeah, there's some individuals like in my community that were not associated with the law, respectable people that run for office and become elected. Once they're elected, they're told what to do by a bar member. At the county level, our county attorney, who is taking orders from the state bar, is going to tell that county commissioner or going to tell that sheriff, this is what we want you to do. I've got it very well documented. In fact, back to a little bit of my story, last week, after 5 years, and my sheriff asking that the CBI investigate the criminal charges and actions of people that worked in my government, they surrendered this to the district attorney who refused to prosecute. I spent another 2 years, and I've got the documents proving that that district attorney is a criminal. The last response I got from the CBI was, go back to my local law enforcement. It's a round robin.
You know, it's kind of interesting, Jim. I got an attorney, supposedly going to be a good attorney, that convinced me to take a 7-year term, because if I went to court, I could get 99 years for possession of marijuana in Texas 50 years ago. And he got promoted to the president of the Bar Association for taking me off the streets.
Well, see, it does. When you negotiate like that, you didn't actually hear how strong their evidence were. You assumed the strength of their evidence and so chose for a plea deal, I'm assuming. Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. That's how they're playing the game. They're going to haul you to court. They're going to file some kind of a charge. Whether it's actually bona fide and substantiated by evidence or not has nothing to do with it. They're going to lie to you. They're going to tell you this is what they got in mind, and they're going, oh, and by the way, if you don't want to take a chance on the 99, 0 or 99, you can go ahead and take this little 7-year program that we got. Yep. One of the things people need to understand is their enemy before they ever make a decision whether to take the 99-year plan or take the 7-year plan. People are not, and I've done this nationwide with people. I'll get them on Skype, we'll do the screen sharing, I'll pull up their bar association, I'll read to them the rules in place in their location, and they go, well, no shit, I didn't know that's the way it worked. I just throw my hands up. I'm trying to help them, and then at the end of the conversation, they're thinking, well, I'm going to file these documents with the court. It absolutely astounds me that anybody thinks that they're going to get the money back from the bank robber. That's what these people are. We have RICO laws. This is a syndicated crime ring known as the bar. You can have city bars, county bars, state bars, American bar, international bar. I don't care which label it is. They're all in a crime syndicate. Once they have whatever it is that they took from you, how in the world anybody thinks they can take the best written document stating all of the pertinent codes and statutes and get their property back is beyond me. They can't admit they did wrong. They can't give the property back because that ties them to the crime. And that's not going to happen. Yeah, in the perfect world it should. That's what we think should happen. But in actuality, it's not happening anywhere in this country. The people have got to educate themselves. Go ahead. Go ahead, Carl.
What have we found when we look into this? Because you and I have done quite a little bit of research involved in this, and we've looked at it from the city level right on up to the state. And you know, isn't it incredible how they can find so many clever ways of separating people from their money? It's this thing that you have out called CTSI, what I have here, the Association County Commissioners of Georgia. Oh, and by the way, you may want to know this. I finally found their charter. And you know when they were chartered? You're going to love this, Jim. They were chartered in December of 1933.
One of the things that people don't know, we're a peaceful people. The Americans are a peaceful people. As long as we're left alone, we're not off on a tangent looking for crime. It's after the taking is when you bow up and you start trying to figure it out how to get it back. Yeah. One of the things, these schemes. Carl just spoke about it. And in fact, the other night, he found where my county has a $200 million corporation at the county level. That's 1/7, I think, of what the total budget is for the state. And there's 60-something counties. There's more money out there that the government's in control of that the people don't know about. But that money has been building for years and years and years and years. And similar to what he just spoke about with CTSI, it is a holding company registered as a nonprofit who advertises that they're a risk management company selling high-quality insurance products to Colorado counties. Yet, when you call or you write through the Freedom of Information mechanism, you get a message back from the Securities and Exchange that they are not an insurance company. They're not known. The SEC has no knowledge of them. Now, what's been happening, and you can go back to 1933, I think it's actually been going on a lot longer than that. Whenever they find something that they want, a small group of attorneys with the control people at the state level of the bar, they will put a program together on how they're going to take whether it's that 10,000-acre ranch in Nebraska, whether it's what they took from me or other people that I know in the state that have lost to the government, whether it's their local or their state government. They put a plan together on, we're going to take this, but this is how we're going to cover it. We're going to make sure we've got all of these judges and district attorneys on board, that they have no access to the court. We're going to control the media so that they can't get their story published. We're going to keep them in the dark, and we're going to let them die of old age with no remedy to their problem. And we're going to let the next generation of attorneys enjoy the spoils. We're enjoying, the current attorneys right now are enjoying the spoils of the ones that came before them. And they're going to leave something at least the same size, if not bigger, for the future generation of attorneys. And here the American people are out here individually thinking we're going to file a writ of mandamus and we're going to get a judge to do something. Well, that's all BS, folks. I've done it. I spent a lot of money doing it. I'm just hard-headed enough to play their game from one end of the scale to the other. In fact, I now, with that last message from the CBI, have documented complete vertical integration from the lowliest law enforcement agency to the state division of the CBI, and there is no law enforcement. Once I got well, and I got it, I've got, well, I wouldn't talk to them on the phone. I make them write it down and send it to me in a message.
Yeah.
What you people are out there fighting against will not work. This is what Carl was talking about. The people need to come together, whether it's in my area, whether it's in his area, whether it's in California. I don't care where it's at. Somebody somewhere needs to put absolute 100% of the documents together to prove what the problem is, so that the people can read it and not just hear about it and think they know what the truth is. They've got to absolutely know what the truth is. And when that happens, a change can be made. We can't do it individually.
Carl made some comment.
Well organized.
Carl made a comment about herding cats, and that's what it's like, especially in the Patriot movement, and I'm probably guilty of that. I don't join groups. I don't really get involved. I don't travel. I don't go to meetings anymore, because every time I did, I just got attacked. There was it was like, what don't you people understand? I'm trying to work for you. What do you think I'm doing this for? What am I doing this show for? What am I passing this information on for?
Let me interrupt a second there, Clay.
Go ahead.
One of the that I've understood when I go to these meetings, it's always somebody whining about fixing one little problem, their own individual problem, when in fact, if they would fix the big problem, everybody's problem would be fixed. And that's the cohesiveness that we haven't put together in any group, as far as I know.
I think the major problem, you spoke what the major problem is. The major problem is victimless crimes.
The major problem is the bar. That's one issue. Victimless crimes is one issue. I'm sorry, Jim, but you know that we've got to stop this this picking out of each and every person's personal agenda. You know, and that's what this is. Victimless crimes are just but one item on the menu for them. It runs the gamut. So what we end up having to do is to retool and go back and look at what the disease is. The disease is the bar. The disease is the attorneys, the control that they wield over us. And we need to arrest those where we have them dead to rights. Jim has them in his locale. I have them in mine. And any number of people have them documented in their locale. All we need to do is just to get off our happy asses, come together in numbers they can't ignore, and effect the arrest of these yahoos. And after we effect that arrest, then we have to make absolutely certain that our mechanism for justice, the grand jury, is returned to the people. We give them the fully informed grand jury handbook, make that required reading for them, and we take the damn attorneys out of the jury room and let them do their job. It's amazing what'll happen in that situation. That's the disease, folks. Let's go after the disease, not the symptoms. What do you say to that, Jim?
I'm going to jump in and change. I'm going with you, but I'm going to change my attack plan a little bit. Okay. One of the things that I disclosed to some pretty high people in the CBI is, before we get to a common law grand jury, before we get to a court venue in common law where you have a plaintiff and a defendant, one of the things that we're currently struggling with now that I think we have to get over, and I said it just a minute ago, is these district attorneys. When you find out that they're not properly qualified to hold the position of God, basically they're acting like God, making decisions on who goes to court and who doesn't. That goes back, Clayton, to your victimless crimes. A corporation, a government corporation, can't be a victim.
Right.
That's probably That's a big part of the problem, where they're going to give you a speeding ticket, or they're going to, say you didn't pay your taxes. It's a victimless crime. Then you look at my side, where I'm a victim. I lost property. But the whole thing revolves around the ability or the willingness of the state district attorney to actually bring the criminal to court, so that the people can hear, have a trial. Now, what I mentioned to the CBI officer was, I will give you in fact, I sent him the documents. Here's the documents, here's the man's name, this is what he did, here it is in the statute, in the rule book that he says he's playing by, which he's in violation of. You can go down and arrest this individual. You can put him in a detention cell, and the way their system is played today is there has to be an arraignment hearing where the defendant is read the charges. The beautiful part about that is the defendant gets an arraignment hearing adjudicated, moderated, whatever you want to call it, by a qualified judge. Just so happens in Colorado, all of the judges are guilty of the same crime that the district attorney's guilty of. As soon as the judge is presented behind the bench and takes his place, that CBI officer will have the documents, and I've got them.
You're saying CBI, what is that? CDI, what does that stand for?
Colorado Bureau of Investigation.
CBI, okay.
See, one of the things, we have these departments at what we think is the federal level, and then they have mirror duplicates at all the state levels. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they all operate in like fashion. They are criminals. They cannot legally qualify for those positions that they have been appointed to or elected to. And once the people understand how to use their rule book against them, and then get law enforcement to actually enforce these statutes, we will rid ourselves of a corrupt judicial system. Technically, they control 1/3 of our government, but then they cross over into the legislative assemblies, they cross over into the executive branch, so they're actually in control of more than 1/3. But the attack from the people should be through their law enforcement. We're a peaceful people. We're going to have somebody who's getting paid to do this job arrest a criminal.
Well, now I find that to be a problem, because I really haven't seen any law enforcement that was willing to do that. They're bowing to the wishes of the DA.
That is your problem.
We even talked about the last time you were on my show. I believe you even mentioned Sheriff Richard Mack, who was trying to organize the sheriffs into a constitutional body, and you found something wrong with him.
Yeah, he's a fraud. These guys have to have a fidelity bond to legally qualify for their position. It's no different than somebody having to have an insurance verification card to put the registration on their vehicle that they want to drive up and down the road. Whether it's traveling, whether it's commerce, it doesn't matter. They're not playing by the same rules that they're making the people play by.
Jim,
they are not qualified. Go ahead.
Let me step in just a second. Yeah. This is one of the keys to the whole mechanism that they work with, and that is that once again they saw a way to separate us from money. And the money I'm talking about now is the bond money. When they take their oath, they're supposed to have a bond, and that bond is required by the constitutions of the various states, and we find that no problem. But you see, those bonds typically would go to registered insurance carriers or registered insurance agents. And as in the case in CTSI out there in Colorado, as is the case Association of County Commissioners here in Georgia, these groups have the ability, through the empowerment of the bar card carrying attorneys that control it all, to say, well, you don't really have to be insurance carriers. We just need somebody that's going to hold this money and act as an insurance agent. And the difference between Georgia and Colorado is that they say that they are registered as insurance providers, and they are not. Well, in my state, they don't even bother to say that. And as a matter of fact, in their own documents, they stipulate that a portion of that bond money goes to a group called Interlocal Risk Management Association, and that's for catastrophic insurance, you see. Anything that they can't handle in-house, then that falls over into this IRMA group, and then they have to pick up the difference there. And the IRMA group happens to be based out of Chicago, you know, the bent nose type, and they have way too much fun with us. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. One of the things, and this is what, it's sad that people don't know this. We have risk management companies at the local level that then there's risk management, and actually CTSI is just one of a few in Colorado, and that's County Technical Services Incorporated, who sells high quality insurance products to Colorado counties. Well, there's another, and I don't remember all the names, but there's all of these different risk management companies dealing with towns and cities. Actually, the Bar Association in Colorado is the State Risk Management Corporation. And if you read the web page, and there's hundreds of pages in the Colorado Bar web page, they disclose themselves as a risk management company. They are chartered as a nonprofit, and they are not recognized by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, what they're doing is they're taking all of these government treasury funds, they're putting them into their coffers, and they're acting like a holding company. Now, the best way they know to manage risk is if anybody files a claim as an injured party, run it through a paper shredder and forget it ever showed up. That's their risk management. And go on to that, you know, what they're doing, they're providing the protection from the insulation from the justice system. What we think we have civil or criminal justice, they are keeping the government employees from being prosecuted. That's where the victim, you know, the people, that's where victims, people, ordinary private citizens are victims. But then on the other side, you get a speeding ticket, you get caught with a little hemp on you in your pocket. That's a victimless crime, yet they're going to haul you to court, and they're going to insulate either the prosecution or the defense attorney, because one of them's going to lose the case. They're going to prevent or isolate them from personal liability in the event of a failed attempt to either prosecute and convict a person or defend that person. It's a game set up where they've got it all set up so that they can steal from the people, victimless or victim, and protect the very small group of people known as bar members in the state from any kind of liability. Again, you can read this in their website. I almost cry when I get somebody on the computer and I show them this. I mean, they'll sit there and they'll look at that and look at that and look at that. They'll study it for a week, and then I'll get another message. Well, I'm going to go ahead and try this anyway. Maybe I'll be the one that breaks through. Doesn't work.
They are the Robin Hoods, Jim. They are the Robin Hoods.
I call them the Khazarian Mafia.
Actually, all they are is the Colorado Bar or the Georgia Bar members. They have no character. They have no virtue.
I'm
they have
looking
no
for
honor.
answers here, guys. I'm looking for answers. Now, if that answer is, you know, I started the militias 20 years ago, but those were infiltrated too. We split off from state to state, and nothing ever got done. Nobody ever got arrested. Nobody got picked up in Texas for murdering 17 little children. None of these people that you're talking about in Colorado you made some progress in Colorado with legalizing hemp, but the bar and the lawyers have moved in to license it, license something God gave us. I have a hard time understanding that. What's the answers? What can we do? How can we organize? I mean, if we've got an audience out there, and I don't know how many, maybe 10, you know, but how do we, if we could work together, what could we do? If the law enforcement won't arrest people for criminal behavior because they're attorney, because they got connections, because, you know, why didn't they pick up the murderer of John Benet Ramsey there in Colorado? You know, we talked about who that was yesterday, you know, but nobody's got arrested because they had connections. They were Masons or somebody, or were related to Masons. How do we break through that control?
Okay, the way we break through the control is that we come together. That's the purpose of Americans Standing United. It is the group that is going to band together a large number of people to show up one location at a time and start arresting the criminals. That's the whole purpose, my friend, and that's what we are forming. And that's what has them ultimately worried, like they've never been worried before.
Well, I have that up on my website. It's linked to this show. And I will certainly do that, and I'm pretty sure I've registered there, too.
Yeah. So, folks, you know, we can play around. We can discuss the problems till the cows come home. Or we can roll up our sleeves and get down to the business of taking care of this problem. The problem that we need to take care of is the disease, not the symptoms. The disease starts and ends right there in your local courts. So whichever direction you choose to travel, if you can document yours and you have the criminals dead to rights, then very soon you're going to have a place to take that. And we are going to start one location at a time, and we're going to start the toppling of these dominoes, this house of cards, whatever analogy you choose to or metaphor you choose to use, but they're coming down, because enough is enough. We can't take this anymore. They're destroying family, they're destroying property, they're destroying the American way of life, and as long as you want to sit back and discuss the problems, yeah, they're going to continue to do it. We're past that. Talk time is over. Now it's time to act. So, yeah, come with us. Jim knows that this is what's going to have to happen. I know what's going to have to happen, because neither one of us have been able to affect justice at our local level, not individually, but we will collectively.
We're going to have to find a way to educate the people in whatever, in areas where somebody's actually got the dirt and they can, you know, to get enough people behind them to affect a change. I just did a screen sharing thing with you guys, if you got your cameras on, and this is just for a quick reference. Clayton, you can see this if you turn your camera on.
I can't. I'm recording right now. I'm recording for YouTube. This whole show will be on YouTube, and the only thing I can see is me, so...
The information is so easy to find. While Carl took a minute in his last statement, I pulled up a page on the Colorado Bar Association that completely discusses the educational programs and the aimed at avoiding legal malpractice claims and how to use the bar for the professional liability insurance as required. They're admitting it's required in our state statutes. They're admitting it's in our state constitution. One of the other claims, if you read another page in this website, they will discuss bribery in our state constitution. We have elected government officials sitting on the boards of directors for all these risk management companies. They're not insured to be there in the first place. They're using their political position to further the cause of these private nonprofit corporations. That's bribery. They're getting a paycheck for doing it. If the people just knew where to find the information to prove which crimes are being committed, we would be 3/4 of the way to whatever we're talking about, setting up a group, educating the people to effect a change. Again, I've proven individually I can do all of this. I can show it to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. I can take it to my sheriff's department. I can take it to the police chief, and not a damn thing happens. I spent an awful lot of money taking them into civil court. Judge just said, flat refused to give me a court date. Until we get 10,000 people behind one cause and one individual, not to worry about an individual claim, this is the thing. I was going to try to have the district attorney arrested for violation of state statute referring to his qualifications to hold office. Once he's out of the way, it frees up the court system for me and everybody else in my nine county area where that man rules. This is what we've got to do. You were asking for the answers. We have to educate the people. We have to have people decide that they want to know more about the truth. They want to know more about what the government's up to so that they can band together and fix the problem. In my state, there's 18,000 bar members. It's 1 against 18,000. I haven't been able to break through. I don't know in Carl's situation, but I bet you there's more bar members in Georgia than there are in Colorado. Individually, he can't break through. Go ahead.
Indeed, there's more people here in Georgia. The education process, we've been trying that for a long time now, and that's
they're not listening to the truth.
No, they can't listen to the truth because it is just so damn overpowering that in order to grasp it, they have to come to terms with the fact that everything that they thought was real is not. That's a tough one to really get your head around.
The other problem is that once you realize, if you do realize that we're operating under a criminal system, that the criminals are in control, then what are you going to do about it? I've tried to educate through the Free American, through this radio show. I've tried to educate people, and the only thing I get is I just don't want to call attention to myself. I just want to stay below the radar. I just can't we all just get along?
Well, now you spoke about it earlier in this show, Clayton. You made a comment about how you were going to these meetings.
Yep.
And there was, and somebody, and you referred to people as trolls, is somebody attendees to a meeting as a troll, and they said, well, you can't say that or you can't talk about that. Bullshit. Oh, sorry, guys.
No, that's all right. That's exactly what I told them. Bullshit. I'm gonna expose these people. I'm going to talk about it, and I will talk about it, and I am talking about it. And if you don't want to hear it, well, do what everybody else does. Cut it off. Cut off the. Turn your computer off. Stick your fingers in your ear.
Carl brought up the fact about Richard Mack. I have nothing individually, personally, against Richard Mack other than the fact I was part of message strings where he was making comments, and I called him out. I called him a fraud, and I don't know how many thousands of people read that. I don't even remember when I did it. It's been 8 or 10 months ago.
Oh, so you're the reason he had a heart attack, huh?
Well, here's the thing. When you find somebody that's breaking the laws or the statutes or whatever they say is the control rule book, call them out. One of the things I've been trying to do is let other people see somebody doing it and getting away with it. I'm walk around the yard. I'm here at my house. I don't have law enforcement out there waiting for me to come outside to arrest me. These people are cowards. That's why they banded together. They're like the little sardines in the ocean that turn into a bait ball to look bigger than they are. These are cowards. Once the people realize that these cowards will run, or they're going to look for somebody else in the group to try to fix the problem. You go through that group like I did, in your state level, like I did here in Colorado, and you find the Achilles heel. Though you find the person in your area like I did, and his name is Dan Hotzenpeller. He is the 7th Judicial District Attorney in the state of Colorado. Point him out. Let your neighbors know about it. Wait for him to have you arrested. The law enforcement's not going to stand behind him. You get some people, you start educating the people as to, here's the problem, this is who's causing it, and this is what I'm doing about it. That will go a long way. There's people, you know, I'm one of them. I could use this financial support to further the attack, to talk to people, to travel around the state, to get, you know, to rent a ballroom in a hotel complex and have 300 people come in. Tell them what's going on, tell them who's doing it, and tell them how you're going to fix it. Present the documents from the attorney. I could go in with my computer, have about, you know, on a screen sharing, you know, a PowerPoint presentation. I can show them exactly what's going on. That's what the people need to do. I don't mind being the mouthpiece. Carl doesn't mind being the mouthpiece. You would do it in Texas, Clayton.
I've done it in Texas. I put
somebody
up,
to get behind and support them a little bit.
Jim, I set up preparedness expos here, Free American Preparedness Expos. I did it in Dallas. I did it in Fort Worth. I did it in Atlanta. You know, and I started the Free American by going to somebody else's preparedness expos across the United States. I traveled the country, and then behind the various attacks on me, I got to the point where I couldn't move. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. And I needed some backing. I needed some donations, something to continue. I haven't been able to get that. I haven't been able to get that. Nobody. It seems like, again, what I run to. I just don't want to call attention to myself. Well, making a donation on the website doesn't call attention to you. But,
well, you know, a minute ago you asked about how do we fix this. You were looking for answers.
Yes, sir. I still am.
Well, and that is the answer. Now, we haven't perfected the mechanism yet, but I know the answer. Carl knows the answer, and he made a comment a few minutes ago. There's people all over this country that have done a lot of investigating and pulled a lot of documents, and that's another ironic thing. All of the evidence is in government files somewhere. These criminals are so scared of being exposed or ripped off by one of their co-employees, they write everything down and record it. All you got to do is have basically the financial resources to keep a roof over your head long enough so that you can find these documents. Carl's done it. I've done it. There's 2 people in California that I know have done it. The people that are looking for the information need to find a way to support the people that have found the information so that we can come together and put a group as strong, basically as large also, as the Bar Member Association, containing 1.2 million people in this country. Yeah, that's an uphill push, but it can be done. We have 320 million Americans living in this country. I don't know how many illegal residents we have. I do know how many bar members we have, but we can win this game. The people can win this, but they've got to decide they want to go through whatever it takes to actually get in the game and win. This hiding, you know, the American people are just a bigger bait ball right now than the attorney bait ball, and that's got to change. We need to become the predators. We need to make the exposure. I have no compassion for somebody that's broken the law, that's illegally occupying a government office. I'm going to let the people set the penalty. If they're going to, if we're going to seize their assets, we're going to incarcerate them, we're going to, whatever the people decide to do with them, that's the choice. But I have no problem exposing them. Somehow we've got to put that together. Carl's working with it with ASU. What Carl's doing is he's offering the people a place to come and read about what's going on. He's got a website. You can look at it. You can listen to calls. There's a gentleman over in Denver that was working with some people with the ASU about a crowdfunding platform. I'm not exactly sure how that's going, but where people can make a donation to a cause that they think is working to expose what's, the crimes of our government. If that's not the mechanism, develop another one. Use one as an example on how to make the next one better. I don't know where it's going to come, but that's what the people have to do. Individually, we can't win this.
Well,
I just
go ahead.
It's not going to happen with one of us. It's not going to happen with two of us, and it's not going to happen with 10 of us going to any one locale. It's only going to happen when we have enough numbers to make them feel it. And I use that term, make them feel it, because that's exactly what Representative Tom Price, Congressman from Georgia, told me on 2 separate occasions, what it was going to take in order to get them to do the right thing. He said that they'll do it when we can make them feel it. Folks, if you can't come to terms with that, then you can't come to terms with reality. We must make them feel it. And I don't care what you think is more important on any given day. If you're willing to say that work is more important, that a party is more important, that a family get-together is more important, well, then you're saying that you are more important than your fellow man. And it's a matter of America or you. Greed is what this is all about. And people are being greedy right now with themselves. They're being selfish. They only think about themselves until and unless they get the idea that there is a bigger, more dastardly evil out there that we have to go after. Well, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change until the people that are crafting those chains of bondage are knocking on your door and ready to fit you for yours. They are fixing those right now. They are crafting those right now. You may not hear the chains clatter as they come down the street, but they are coming down the street, I guarantee you. So if you're satisfied with that and you don't mind the fact that your family, friends, and children and progeny are condemned by you through your inaction and irresolution, then continue to do what you're doing. Personally, I'm not there. I believe in liberty. I believe that this country was founded on godly principles, and I believe that it's worth fighting for. And if you don't, then may God have mercy on your soul, because chances are the opposition forces won't, and I can't tell you for a fact that those that fight for freedom won't either.
Well, I question myself every day if I'm making the right decisions, if there's anything else I can do. And for today, under your name, Carl, on Tuesday, September 9th, I have this show. That's September 8th, brother. And I have a link there for ASU, which is www.americanstandardunited.com. I also have a link there for RiseUpForAmerica.com. I am doing, and I keep this show on every day. I get up every morning, I upload the show. I do. It's what I can do right now. It's what I've got the money to do. I could do more with more donations. And I'm almost getting to the point where I think the internet is not exactly our friend. It's the way we communicate, but everybody wants everything for free on the internet. It's like nobody's doing, nobody's getting together. Nobody's sitting around a campfire. Nobody's going to a meeting like we did for the militia or even for bike clubs, you know. We, when I was in a bike club, we'd go sitting around a campfire and drink a beer and decide what we wanted to do. Patriots don't do that. We did it. We did it in the preparedness expos. Go ahead.
Clayton, you've touched on something that is key to this whole equation, and that is, folks, when you stop and think about it, what did we have here? We had this this wonderful little shining light on the hill called America, and here in America, people were able to come and freely work and prosper. And those two words go hand in hand, work and prosper. And people from all over the world watched and saw as those willing to work did prosper and thought, wow, they're doing so well, I'll bet you I can carve out a little piece of that myself. But I think I can go over there and carve that out without having to work. And that is the beginning of your welfare state, my friend. We do have a welfare state, and the welfare state started with the attorneys, because they are not a working class. Those esquires are recognized as the privileged class by virtue of the fact that they don't have to work. And they are one of the first bottom feeders. They are one of the first class of wealth destroyers that ever came across the pond. And they have made their entire structure, their entire life's purpose, the reduction of this entire nation of wealth into a welfare state, not just for them, but for their friends. And those friends are whoever they want to be their friends. It's all about nepotism. It's all about sending money back to the crown. It's all about sending money to the Vatican. It's all about separating you from money. You, the one who was willing to work and prosper, you are the enemy, because you do work. They do not. The bottom feeders suck you dry on a daily basis, and you allow it.
Well, let's also talk about here this welfare state. We have opened our borders. We have opened our doors to the illegals. These instead of stopping these illegals, and I interviewed when I was working with Charles Collins as a presidential candidate. I was in San Diego. I interviewed, talked to a Border Patrol agent. He said, we could stop them, Clay. We could stop them. They won't let us. They won't let us stop them. And that was 15 years ago or more, 20 years ago, 1996. And it's gotten worse. Now they are bringing the illegals in by bus, by plane, and dropping them off and giving them welfare, feeding them, making sure they're clothed. They are doing that. If you study history, that is an invading force. This is what Americans got to look forward to. A few days ago, I had Hellstorm, a story about Nazi Germany and how the women were raped and everything by the invading Soviets, and that's what they're setting us up for here. They killed 60 million white Christian Russians in Russia after the Soviets, after the Bolsheviks took over, and that's why they are bringing in my opinion, I don't see any other reason to bring thousands or millions of illegal aliens in here, gang members in here, feed them, clothe them, arm them, so they can walk into a gun shop and buy a gun. I might not be able to.
Yeah. This is
our border.
This is what an agent in the area does.
One of you. Go ahead.
I'm not an expert on all of our history, but as far as I know, our borders have always been open unless we've been in maybe like World War II, you know, some major conflict. We build bridges, we put up gates, we print documents, we staff these locations for people from other countries to come into this country, to immigrate.
Legally.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We don't have closed borders. What we have is people just going around the gates.
Yep.
This is a minor problem when you take a look at it. One of the things somebody ought to ask the question, where is all this money coming from to pay for all of these benefits, whether they're given to our citizens or illegal immigrants? It's the money being taken by the Bar Association through property takings or these victimless crimes where they convict somebody and they pay a fine. It goes into these private corporations. It's redistributed into different corporations and then given back to the people that aren't working. Carl and I have discovered, how many hundreds of these corporations are there that you've discovered?
Not hundreds, thousands. Thousands.
There you go.
There's thousands in every state. As a matter of fact, what we do seem to find is that there are more of these government services, nonprofit or some for-profit corporations involved in alleged quote-unquote government than there are in the private sector. So there you go. You know, people used to say, "Oh, well, what happens when we have 50% of the population that's drawing benefits or drawing, well, call it benefits, call it whatever you want. What happens when we have 50% drawing benefits and then 50% working?" Well, you know something? Those numbers are not even close anymore. We have one person working to support two. Right now. If you're working for a living, you're supporting two other people. Isn't that the way America was originally set up? I don't think so. I don't think so. So,
you know,
the corporations run everything. I'm sorry, Jim. The corporations run everything. The attorneys are the ones that form these corporations. They sit on every one of their boards. They advise and every step along the way. And as is the case in Colorado, as is the case in California, as is the case in New York, as is the case in any state of the union, you have attorneys that draft all legislation, and then those very same attorneys advise city and county government attorneys how to draft their statutes and codes. So there's your power structure. It has absolutely nothing to do with the people that you elect to office. They're just puppets on a string. The puppet masters, they're your attorneys. Oops. Now, if you know that,
one of the things that we're finding, Carl, is the corporations that are in control, that are being controlled by the attorneys. The attorneys are taking a slice off the top. Yeah, they're distributing down to a zero balance because of a nonprofit status. So what the people don't understand is, where is all this money coming from? It's coming from the hardworking people that lose it through several different mechanisms, put it in the control of the attorneys, and they distribute it to the non-working class. And it's for votes, it's for whatever, you know, all of that mess we've seen in the past. This is what the American people that are working, that are trying to change something, need to be exposed to. They need to not only know that it's happening, but where is the information? That's what you're doing, that's what I'm doing. It all revolves back to knowledge. You get what you pay for. If you want to get on the internet, you want to search, you want to surf, you want to do it for free, well, you're going to get nothing. You need to go to the people like Carl through ASU, give them some more resources so that they can not only discover this information, but actually distribute it. Get it to the people. That's what we don't have right now.
You know, I want to put in a little plug here. I believe we've got the answers to all of our problems within arm's reach. Arm's reach. I mean, I've got link to a video with Ron Finley, who is a black man living in South LA, and he said he got tired of, and after he realized that all of his people there in the neighborhoods were being killed by drive-bys, but more of them were being killed by drive-throughs. Talking about all of the fast food joints in South LA. And so he started going into vacant lots, planting gardens. And if we did that, I mean, if we did that just in our backyards, we wouldn't have to worry about starvation. We wouldn't have to worry about bad health. We could fix just about everything. And it doesn't take the attorneys doing that. They're fighting on the side, working with Monsanto, working with Archer Daniels Midland. They are backing the bad guys. The attorneys are backing the bad guys. And if we just work together to alter our neighborhoods, if we grew food instead of grass, we could change things. If we put up windmills that, by the way, we populated this whole country using windmills, things would start to change. Season by season, things would start to change, wouldn't it?
It would change. It would change darn near overnight, because the control mechanism is in food. The control mechanism is in water. The control mechanism is in power. But again, Clayton, remember this, that even though we know this to be the fact, the real control mechanism, the real source of the disease that plagues this great country is and remains this out-of-control criminal judiciary as controlled by the American Bar Association. So when we finally get a grip on that and start arresting these DAs for jury tampering, that's one, and we can do that anywhere. When we finally get to the point where we say, you, Mr. Attorney, you, Mr. DA, you, Mr. Prosecutor, are not allowed in our jury rooms, our grand juries, we, the people, will make sure that our grand jurists are properly educated so they know what they can and cannot do. And we use what is left of the system to clean the system up. Grand juries, not the ones that people go around saying that they have formed independently, but true grand juries are still the key to everything that we are thinking and talking about right now. Because when we break down those doors and give those people the proper empowerment that they, by all rights, should have had from the beginning, then they have the power to arrest any and all of these criminals in this enterprise.
Well, you know, again, going back to this food thing, we can alter our neighborhoods. All we need is a flyer, and put it on your neighbor's door and say, we're going to have a meeting to talk about how to feed your family well. And while they're there, then we can start talking about the things that would scare them. I mean, you know, if we talk about, if we go to my neighbor over here and say, listen, we'd like for you to go to a meeting, we're going to talk about arresting the district attorney, I don't think we're going to get much response. But if we talk about, if we talk about our food supply and how we can do vertical gardens in your back room, then we might get some interest. we might get somebody coming up here, and all you got to do is put a flyer on your grocery store pegboard.
I'll tell you what, Clayton. That's one idea. That's one concept. That's an action plan.
Well, that's what we need is action. That's what we need, and we need something. I don't want to go out and kill nobody. I don't want to go, this whole what these banksters do is finance terror groups so they can get control of countries or neighborhoods. I don't want that to happen. I've always said, how do we fight evil without becoming evil? And
yeah.
I think this is a way to do it. If a bunch of black people in South LA can do this, why can't we do it?
It can be done anywhere, and however you want to approach this, if you approach it with the idea that the disease is what we're ultimately working on repairing or taking care of, well, then the disease is going to be that which is the brass ring. Okay, that's what we're all reaching for. It doesn't matter who gets it, who puts us on that path, whose action is the one that actually ultimately succeeds. What's important is that we take action and quit just discussing.
And that's I am like I said, I'm kind of down on the internet. I'm a little, besides the fact that you can be anybody you want to on the internet. You don't have to show ID. You don't have to. Nobody has to know what a real person you are. In some cases, in our case, my case, your case, we are who we are. My phone number is up there. I talk to you on Skype. Same with Jim. We're real people.
Yep.
We're real people, and we are here for you, folks. That's why I'm asking you for a donation, because it's what I do. It's what I got to do. It's what I've got to do, because my enemies have killed every business that I had. Carl's lucky, and Jim's probably lucky to still be able to do their business. My people, my enemies, were pretty powerful. I had one guy I was promoting. He said, "I can't be on your show anymore, Clay. Your enemies are too powerful." No problem. I'll be glad to take you off my website. I don't promote cowards. And it's we really have the answers, folks. As soon as I've got one friend that was just on my show a few days ago. He's building solar, and he's building wind generators. Interesting wind generators. You can stack them up, so you can have a 50-foot or 100-foot wind generator. It'll probably generate enough power that at least you can charge your phones up, charge your computers up, and run your refrigerator. We don't have to. We actually have the ability to build nuclear power plants using thorium that you can't build an atomic bomb out of. So the answers are here, folks, but we got to get together and talk about it. Whoever's building these nuclear power plants down the New Madrid fault line, they don't care if it goes off. They don't care if there's an earthquake there. They don't care if there's a crack in their reactor. You're the ones that are going to die, not them. But if you built those plants, refurbished them out of thorium, wouldn't matter. The answers are there, and you can grow that food, and you can generate your own energy in your backyard. In your backyard, Dave. And if you can do that, then you don't need the banksters or the government for nothing.
Nope.
It's a different kind of society. It's a different kind of approach. You're just so used to reaching over there and flipping that light switch that, you know, there's another answer. There is another answer there, folks. And if the old, what do they call it when you know, you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results? Insanity.
Yeah, it's a classic form of insanity.
Isn't that what we're doing? We are living in an insane society.
It is. Yeah, look, you and I both know, Clayton, that more inventions have been put on the shelves to prevent the people from being able to be self-sufficient than have ever been allowed to make it into the mainstream, because the powers that be, and when I say powers that be, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, because it is, in this case, about power. If they can put a meter on it, if they can regulate it, they can control you. They do so with power in every form, including gas. They do so with food, including every form, including the god-awful genetically modified food. They can control you through your mood by virtue of this. Let's see. Take some words here. Okay, chemtrailing, geoengineering, atmospheric aerosol spraying. There are any measure of control factors. Fear is a really good control factor. You know, and they use any and all at their disposal to keep you, the public, from seeing behind the curtain. Jim and I, and you, Clayton, have seen behind the curtain, and we know what it is that's going to have to be changed.
Ron Finley started a group in L.A. I've got to listen to the video to find out what the name of his group is, because I'm going to get him on the show if possible. But he made the statement that growing your own food is like printing your own money. He said
it is. It's a commodity.
Yes.
It is a commodity. Commodity is something as a measure of exchange.
That's right. That's right. And it's what I've been trying to tell people for at least 15 years.
You know, there was a time when there was a commodity that was used as an exchange, and that commodity was tulips.
Tulips?
Tulips.
Yeah. Okay.
That was actually used as a means of exchange. Don't ask me how they went from one person's hand to another, but they did. Look it up. Anything can be used as a source
there's another commodity that they put on the back of the 1914 $20 bill. It was hemp. It was hemp. You could pay your taxes with hemp in 1913.
Let's not go there, because that's an issue. Let's talk about resolution.
Okay.
Resolution rests with each and every one of you. Resolution rests with those who will shrug off the idea that their lot in life, their little piece of heaven, is something that they can hold on to. They can't. They don't own it. They don't own anything. They think they do, and they're comfortable. But when they realize, if they ever decide to realize what the truth of the matter is, then maybe, just maybe, they'll kiss their wife on the cheek, grab up their Second Amendment implement, whatever it may be, head out the door, and meet up with those who have also come to understand who the enemy is. The enemy has labeled us, Americans, as their enemy. They have labeled us that. They are imprisoning us at record numbers all the time. And as they imprison, they use that as an excuse to take away the people's rights to keep and bear arms, because they know that they cannot invade when there's going to be a gun behind every blade of grass. So before they take away all the guns, it might be a good idea that we remind them who really is in control of this leviathan called government. We are. Yahweh, Yeshua, brought us into this world. Yahweh did. Yeshua saved us. And they gave us the tools to be self-governing. And we took those tools and we created this monster. And as history teaches, every time these monsters get out of control, they must be brought back into control. Now is the time we must bring them back into control. Jim and I, and many others out there, have identified who the enemy is, what they are doing, and how to bring this back to the people. We have, and it's up to you, folks, to understand that this is no laughing matter. This is not entertainment. This is real. This is happening in real time. And even if it hasn't happened to you, you know it's happened to your neighbor. You know it's happened to somebody that you know. Are they not important to you? Do you have to wait till they come for you before you do something? Well, if you do that, there may be nobody left to stand by you. So you best stand by your neighbors and stand by them now. And it doesn't matter that you don't exactly see eye to eye with them on certain issues. What matters is there's a bigger calling. And the bigger calling is that we have to get control of this leviathan. If we do not, I can guarantee you it will control you. Action, folks. Not discussion, action.
If nothing else, folks, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, make a copy of this show and give them. Just send them an email. Here, listen to this. Listen to this. It's a little bit better than World Wrestling, you know. It should give you hope. The answers are out there. There are people that care, and I've interviewed hundreds of people like Carl, like Jim, that are doing everything they can to expose these criminals. You know, I've got a book out called Mystery Babylon, New World Order Unveiled, that told you who was bringing all the drugs into this country. And I'm not talking about marijuana here. I'm talking about the heroin and the cocaine. And again, that was your elected officials doing this, or appointed officials doing that. That you can find that on shop.freeamerican.com. Folks, we are working for you. And please keep in mind why I started this magazine and this radio show. It was when I watched the federal government murder 17 little children and their whole families. It was a church. They attacked a church, folks. Not a compound. Not a compound. And I swore I would never sit back and watch something like that happen again, and I've been doing this ever since. And what we've discovered and what we found and what Carl has given you, he's given this to you. There was no charge for this show. He's given this, Jim Porter, the same thing. They've given you their research, what they found. Check it out. I've always told them, Carl, you don't have to believe anything I say. Check it out for yourself, though. Check it out for yourself.
Everybody. Yeah. So if the truth is something you can handle, it's out there, and we're going to continue to put it out there. You're going to find some of it that's going to be on the Americans Standing United website. Lord knows, Clayton, you've got a lot on yours. There's a lot of it on riseupforamerica.com. You know, truth is out there, and it's not my truth. It's not your truth, Clayton. It is the truth. So you can ignore it. You can, but do so at your own peril. In the meantime, Jim and I are going to continue to work and hope that we can individually make inroads into this this criminal enterprise, because it seems like there's no other men out there willing to stand with us. All of them are deep in their own little endeavors, and they have many more important things to do than, you know, rescue America. So, well, eventually we'll find those that recognize that what they're doing is an exercise in futility. Eventually, maybe it won't be too late. I don't know. I seem to think that it might already be, but I have to, and Jim has to, continue down this track down this path, because what choice do we have?
Jim,
you either fight or flight.
That's right, and I personally will fight to the death to restore this country to the legitimate republic that was guaranteed me. Jim, would you, you got 5 minutes here. Would you like to close the show for us?
Yeah, I was just sitting here listening to you guys, and if what you were saying wasn't true, I wouldn't be chuckling, because it saddens me. It saddens me that the people, they're complaining about something, and they're not listening, or they're not seeking the answers. The futility of trying to fight this existing Goliath, just, the people are going to have to get over that. You know, the gardens and the helping our communities coming together so that we can talk about bigger issues, that's a good idea. And it's hard to express, or hard for me to express, what's really going on, what the people are allowing to truly happen. I wanted to just tell you a really brief story, and then I'll finish. But right now we've got a little situation in Colorado where we had some people come in. They were ripping off elderly people, home maintenance. It was all a fraud. The state took them to court. The state imprisoned them. The state fined them. The state kept the money, and the people that have filed the original complaint are still left out holding the bag. People don't understand what this government's all about. The evidence is actually there. We're going to come together someday. I don't know how bad has to be, but eventually we're going to have good people doing good things coming together for the good of this country. And until that happens, we're all going to have our own individual little battles. We're going to have our own individual attempts at justice. And at the end of the day, we're not going to have any resolution. You know, I'm in the now. I understand the tragedy at Waco. I understand a lot of the history from decades ago. But what we got to do is get the people to take a look at what's happening today, so that we can change tomorrow. You know, we pay a lot of money to a military. They actually do a lot of reconnaissance to know what happened today so that they can change something tomorrow. We just need to play the same game. The people have to come together, defend our country, defend it from the forces from, you know, whether it's the bar, it's the American bar, the Colorado bar, my city bar. We have to understand the enemy. We need to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they're attempting to get away with it. And I'll just end with that. If the people want to know more about this, Clayton, I'll be glad to share some documents that you can put up on your website. We can work on Texas, we can work on Georgia, we can work on Colorado.
We're out of time. Give me the link that you would like for everybody to have, and I will put that up immediately.
Well, let's you and I talk about this here one day this week, and I'll send you some links from my computer to yours, and you can put them on your website.
All right. Well, I do have Stand Up for America. I've got that up there. So that if you got anything else you want, send that to me. We're out of time here. Thanks to everybody for listening. I sure appreciate it. If you can send a donation, that'd help too. God bless you all. Nice to see you here on Earth. And Dr. D. Charge. Thank you very much. And old Biker Dan. Yeah, it's nice seeing you here on a regular basis, bud. God bless you all. Love you. Bye-bye.